Hey guys, what's going on, and welcome back to my Halloween Horror Reviews 2021. I hope you guys are enjoying the reviews so far, but moving on with today's review, I'm going to be talking about a horror film that I know I'm in the minority for because this movie did not get the best reviews. In fact, it has a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. This movie also did polarize audiences. However, at the same time, with this movie, I just can't help but feel that this movie gets way more crap than it actually deserves. For today's review, I'm going to be talking about 2007's Dead Silence, directed by James Wan. In Dead Silence, we follow a character named Jamie Ashwin who lives with his girlfriend when they receive an unexpected gift in the form of a doll named Billy. And when the two of them see this doll, the two of them are reminded of the tale of Mary Shaw, a ventriloquist who lived in this town called Raven's Fair, which is the town that these two actually grew up in when they were little kids. When Jamie goes to get takeout, and when his girlfriend starts to play with this doll, she starts to go away for a little bit until she notices that sound is drained from everywhere, minus a couple of little things. And unfortunately, well, she meets her demise because, well, to say the least, her tongue has been removed. And when Jamie comes back to see his dead girlfriend's body, he goes back to the town he grew up in, Raven's Fair, to find out what is going on and what is going on with the tale of Mary Shaw. Alrighty guys, so let's get into Dead Silence.
Damien!
I cannot tell you all how long I have wanted to make a video about this movie. Before I continue on, I want to tell you guys a story about my first time seeing this movie, and this is actually a really special memory of mine. I mean, one that I have always remembered ever since I was a teenager. This was actually a really cool thing that my parents had told my brother and I before we became teenagers. My parents had promised my brother and I basically 13th birthday trips, and it would be for separate trips if I remember correctly. My brother chose to go to Tennessee because at the time, and he still is, a huge Elvis fan. I wanted to go to California, and I had always wanted to go. My dad took my brother to go to Tennessee, and my mom flew me out to California. It was one of the most magical times of my life. I went back for a second time with my dad back in 2011, and I missed California. I've wanted to go back ever since. But anyways, at that time, there was a movie coming out called The Reaping, which I have not seen to this day, even though I have heard it is absolute garbage. And I really wanted to see that movie along with my mother. I don't know why we thought this, but for some reason we figured that since it was in California, that they got movies earlier than we did, which we were completely wrong at. However, next to Chinese Theater, there was a multiplex. I thought it was the Chinese Theater multiplex. I don't know if it's still there. It'd be cool if it was. I think that animated TMNT movie was out the time being, but we did not see that. But for the Showtimes, we saw a movie called Dead Silence, and my mother just went, "That sounds cool. Let's go see that movie." We just went into it knowing it was just called Dead Silence. Right after it had ended, we had turned to each other and we said, "That was really good." I have always had this fondness for this movie, and it's not just because of that California trip, even though I absolutely loved it. Over the years, my mother and I still rewatch that movie every now and again, and I rewatch it for the sake of this review, not only just to see how I feel about it, but because I do enjoy that film. And I gotta tell you guys, I know I'm in the minority for this film, and I know this film did polarize audiences, but truly, this is one of those movies that even though I know this movie has a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes, I don't get the rating. I find Dead Silence to be a solid horror movie. Getting right into the performances, there are only really two performances that I find to be the only good ones in the entire film, to which, don't worry, I'll get into the rest of them later on. Starting off with Tyler... One moment. I knew I was gonna mess up a name at some point. Ryan Quentin, I hope I didn't just butcher your name. If so, I'm so sorry. Who plays as Jamie Ashwin. His character at first, he seemed a little bit bland at first, but the more you got into the movie, the more you see his family's history of how he's involved with the tale of Mary Shaw. And the more I got into it, the more I just thought, whoa, okay, that's cool. Whoa. There are two good performances in this movie. One of them is by Ryan Quentin. The other one is Judith Roberts, who plays Mary Shaw. Judith Roberts' character, Mary Shaw, doesn't have the most screen time. In fact, she doesn't have more than, I want to say, about maybe 20 minutes of screen time. But man, when she is on that screen, Judith Roberts plays this character with such a menace in a way that you just don't expect. I mean, sure, at first you see her as this warm, kind-hearted lady, but when you get on her bad side, that is a side you do not want to see, especially when this part played.
Now, who's the dummy?
The first time I saw that scene with my mother, when I first saw this movie the first time, I just legitimately went in my head, kid, you're screwed. I'm gonna say a statement, and I actually believe this. I know I'm probably gonna get a lot of shit for this, but I actually believe this way. I completely get that Saw is one of the most iconic horror franchises out there, but I never saw Saw, pun intended. I completely get that the Jigsaw character is an iconic character to a lot of people. To me though, Jigsaw was never really that iconic to me, but then again, I was never a big fan of the Saw films. To me, Mary Shaw is an icon in horror. And even when she's not on screen, you can just feel her presence, and when she is on screen, the images that you do see are just freaky as all hell. But there's a sequence in this movie. Jamie is in a hotel room. There's this neon sign outside of his room that keeps flashing red. And there is a shot in this movie where you see a zoom in onto Mary Shaw's face. And the look that she gives Jamie just, again, freaky is an understatement. Dead Silence for me has three things in particular that I absolutely love. One of them is the lore and the story of Mary Shaw, along with the whole nursery rhyme thing. Anytime I have talked about Dead Silence to friends of mine, I have always pitched this movie in one of two ways to my friends. Imagine Dead Silence as if it's a more adult version of essentially either a Goosebumps story, or even better, I mean, it works either way, or a much darker tale from, let's say, Are You Afraid of the Dark? One particular thing especially is the nursery rhyme, or the nursery thing that has always been told to the kids in this movie's world. Here's the nursery rhyme from Mary Shaw. I have always loved this ever since I first heard it when I saw this movie as a kid. Beware the stare of Mary Shaw. She had no children, only dolls. And if you see her in your dreams, be sure you never, ever scream. Another thing in particular that I have always loved about Dead Silence is not only the cinematography, but the production design. This movie is such a cool looking movie. John R. Leonetti's cinematography with the production design are gold in this movie. They work so well together producing this really, really cool ghost story in the form of a ventriloquist's death and her revenge going after essentially, well, I don't want to say too much in case if you guys haven't seen it, for when they go into Mary Shaw's place of operation when she doesn't perform, it's so cool. That's the best way I can describe it. It is just really cool. Not to mention as well, John R. Leonetti's cinematography is so well done. One of my favorite shots in this entire film was intercut with a really amazing sequence is when the camera goes up and you see Mary Shaw slowly coming towards the camera. That one part has always stuck out to me. Is this movie scary? Honest to God, in some ways, yeah, I think it is still quite frightening. Do I think it's scary on the level of, let's say, Insidious or the first Conjuring film, or even Conjuring 2 for that matter? No. At the same time though, this movie has some frightening sequences, and I mean really frightening. I love the film's sound design so much because if you guys have seen this movie, one thing that always happens before something goes down is this. The sound completely drains out slowly in a very sinister way. Like, for example, before Jamie's girlfriend gets killed, hearing the sound from not only the music drain out in a very sinister way, but hearing the teapot kettle drain out. I mean, in a way, when I was rewatching this recently, when I heard the teapot kettle sound drain out, at the end it almost kind of sounded like a police alarm. I mean, not a police alarm, a police siren, that's what I meant to say. Every time I've seen this movie, there is always one sequence that has always scared me. It's actually really scared me. It's a sequence in the morgue. It's a flashback sequence when the morgue character, when he was a kid, he wants to go see Mary Shaw's body. This sequence, holy shit. This part, to this day, when I was rewatching this movie for this review, okay, that was a freaky scene. Holy crap. The makeup in this film is absolutely incredible, and one idea I've always absolutely loved about the makeup is when you see Mary Shaw's makeup, it's always emulating her dolls. It always reminds me of a doll that's slowly decomposing. Speaking of the sound, the score of this movie, in particular, the theme song. Dead Silence's theme song is one of my favorite songs or my favorite scores in a horror film. It has always stuck with me, and every time I've heard that track, it just gets me pumped to watch this movie. In terms of the smaller details, and I cannot believe I didn't catch this until now, I love this, and I think this is a great detail that they put in. When Jamie goes back to Raven's Fair, you see "Welcome to Raven's Fair," and it says, no joke, I came up and didn't spot this until just recently. At the bottom of the sign, it says, "A quiet place to live." How did I not notice that until just recently? Rotten Tomatoes says this about the ending, that it's obvious and unnecessary. I could not disagree with that more. I don't want to say too much in case if you guys haven't seen it, but to say this movie's twist is obvious, I mean, sure. If you're paying really close attention to certain things that are happening, sure, you might be able to guess, but for me, every time I've seen this twist ending, I've always went, that's fucking cool. Unnecessary? What?
Happy parents, you old fuck!
Dead Silence does hold a very special place in my heart. But with that being said, does that mean it's free of criticism? Absolutely not. Minus Jamie and minus Mary Shaw, the other performances aren't as good. In particular, the mortician character I didn't buy into so much. By far, the weakest performance. Even when I saw this as a kid, I just thought, this is stupid. Donnie Wahlberg as the cop. It felt like that character was brought in from an entirely different movie. Almost every time that Donnie Wahlberg is on screen, he's always shaving. It tries to put in humor where the humor just doesn't work whatsoever. Particularly with, you guessed it, Donnie Wahlberg's character. There's a sequence in the final act when Jamie Ashton just pushes down Donnie Wahlberg's character and he chases after him, and for some reason, rather than just going after this guy, he has to put in a one-liner, and it makes me go like, why did you even just go? I'll play the scene for you guys, just roll the clip.
Hey, you don't want to make me chase you. Jamie! I don't have a full tank of gas!
Why even was it necessary? I completely understand that Donnie Wahlberg's character is supposed to be the comedic relief, but none of those jokes, and I mean none of those jokes worked whatsoever. But there are also a couple of sequences that I don't think hold up as well. Like, for example, there's a sequence where Donnie Wahlberg and Jamie's character are taking out all the dolls that Mary Shaw is trying to possess, which I love the idea and concept, but execution-wise, looking at the sequence now, it just doesn't really hold up as well in my eyes. Some of the dialogue isn't quite as polished as it could have been. So overall, Dead Silence is one of those horror films that when I look at the score on Rotten Tomatoes, I simply just don't get where the critics are coming from on this one, because in my eyes, Dead Silence is not only a solid horror film, but it's also very underrated. I don't think this is James Wan's best work. For me, that's still The Conjuring. I thoroughly enjoy this movie to this day. All in all, not only is Dead Silence a solid horror film, it's also criminally underrated in my eyes, and I'm going to give Dead Silence a 3 out of 5 stars. Not a great horror film by any stretch of the imagination, but I feel like if you're looking for just a fun ghost story involving dolls, Dead Silence is the way to go this October. So comment down below and let me know, have you guys seen Dead Silence? What did you think? Did you hate it or did you like the film? Let me know below. If you guys want to follow me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. I'm also on Snapchat, so if y'all want to follow me on all those social media platforms, all the links in the usernames are in the description below. I hope you all enjoyed my review of Dead Silence. If so, please hit that like button, also subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification bell whenever the latest video of mine goes live. If you guys want to see any of my previous 2 videos, please click on the right there or there. And if, of course, until my next review of my Halloween Horror Reviews 2021, I'll see you all next time.